After listening to Khenpo's explanation, he not only provided us with learning methods, but also helped us students clarify the direction of our efforts for the 5 years after university, and made us better understand the historical mission we shoulder. Next is our Q&A session. If any students have additional questions, please raise your hand. Our host will then bring the microphone over to you.
Most highly respected Khenpo, I am a student representing the 2010 class of Tibetan medicine from Markang County in the Aba Prefecture. Today, the question I would like to ask is this: how should we properly understand the fundamental and essential differences between the realm of modern science and the teachings of Buddhism? Khenpo, we seek your wisdom on this matter, so please graciously enlighten us with your guidance. Thank you.
He specifically mentioned the fundamental core differences that exist between the empirical methods of modern science and the spiritual insights of Buddhism. Reflecting on this profound subject about 10 years ago, I dedicated myself to writing and publishing an extensive, comprehensive book in the Chinese language, which I titled A Treatise on Buddhist Science, a work that aims to bridge the gap between these two distinct yet potentially complementary fields of human knowledge and understanding of the universe. Zhao Puchu, who served as the president of the Buddhist Association of China, read the entire manuscript and graciously composed a formal calligraphic inscription specifically for it. Later on, within this book, I discussed and explored a wide variety of different viewpoints. What I personally consider to be the most fundamental and the most important aspect of this entire discussion is as follows. From the broader scientific point of view, science is a comparatively modern discipline. It gradually emerged as a novel theoretical framework in the Western world roughly 600 years ago. Regarding Buddhism, various schools provide their own unique and diverse accounts. According to the Phurba tradition, it first emerged and appeared approximately more than 2,900 years ago. But according to the specific Sri Lankan historical calculation, the tradition began and was established approximately more than 2,500 years ago. The teachings of our teacher Shakyamuni Buddha contain numerous worldviews and concepts of karma and cause and effect. Among them, the singularly unique and truly extraordinary spiritual method that transcends the boundaries of modern science was also solemnly proclaimed. I sincerely hope that everyone will take the time to read these principles very carefully. The difference between science and Buddhism, more specifically, what modern science proclaims, is extensively encompassed within Buddhism. In other words, Buddhism can provide a comprehensive explanation of science. However, science often finds itself struggling to provide a truly satisfactory explanation of Buddhism.
Hello, respected Khenpo. I am a student from Balong County, Ganzi Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture, Sichuan Province. I would like to express my sincere and heartfelt gratitude once again to Khenpo for coming here to give us this lecture. My question is this: our nation possesses a long and storied history, as well as globally recognized Tibetan medicine, philosophy, and literature, which are celebrated both at home and across the international community. I am profoundly proud to be a member of the Tibetan people, a nation with a rich heritage. However, our nation currently faces a significant drawback: the prevalence of many regional dialects that often hinder clear communication. My heartfelt question today is about how we might effectively achieve the long-term unification of the Tibetan language across all regions. I hope you can offer guidance and wisdom on this vital matter for our future. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Actually, whether we are looking at the regions of Amdo, Utsang, or Kham, it is clear that we should have a standardized language for all people. This is a very necessary step for our shared communication and future. For many years, a great number of dedicated individuals have spent a very long time repeatedly considering every detail of this matter. However, it is indeed still very difficult to fully achieve this goal of unification at the present time. This challenge remains even with the help of the newly compiled Tibetan Chinese English dictionaries. Furthermore, there are also a few specific places within the regions of Amdo and Kham that have already implemented their own distinct versions and local standards. If even the task of unifying the written script is considered to be quite difficult, it is even harder to unify the spoken language. This is especially true since the later propagation period of Buddhism, when the entire vast regions of Utsang and Amdo had already become very fragmented and isolated tribes. Unless a strong central government or some highly respected individuals can eventually bring everyone together in unity, it would require highly specialized and strategic measures to unify the diverse spoken language and the written script. Otherwise, although many people do feel this is truly necessary, for now, it is an extremely massive and complex undertaking for the government. Therefore, it is currently very difficult and challenging to achieve in the near future.
Respected Khenpo, I am a student from Litang County, Ganzi Prefecture, class of 2010. At this moment, I find myself wanting to ask a profound question. Why do we come into this world?
We are born into this world to serve as dedicated doctors. There are doctors who heal the body, and there are doctors who heal the mind. Some come to heal the bodies of all sentient beings. Some come to heal the minds of all sentient beings.
Respected Khenpo, I am from Aba County, Aba Prefecture, Sichuan, and I am a student in the 2011 class of Tibetan medicine. The question I would like to ask is within the context of today's current environment. As we are currently studying the 4 medical tantras, we are also learning a lot of modern knowledge. But as an ordinary person like me, how can I ensure that Tibetan scholarship and character are not lost? We struggle discerning what to take from modern culture. Please kindly give us your guidance.
In my personal view, and just as we have previously discussed, when we young Tibetan students arrive at this medical school, it is vital that we should study the ancient art of traditional Tibetan medicine with great diligence. At the same time, we must also dedicate ourselves to learning modern knowledge, recognizing that both traditional Chinese medicine and Western medical practices are very important. If, on this foundational basis, you want to cultivate a good character and develop resilient psychological qualities, you need to engage in the study of profound Tibetan texts. For example, the Sakya Pandita's Treasury of Good Advice, Mipham's Advice to Kings, and the elegant sayings on water and wood, which use natural metaphors to teach us about human life and moral conduct. Studying these is extremely beneficial. Among them, if you can study the words of my perfect teacher and the way of the Bodhisattva, then whether you are an intellectual of Tibetan background or someone in the cultural field, it's vital. Especially during your holidays or your free time, you should make an effort to often go to the Buddhist academy to engage in study and reflection. If you can do this, it will greatly help you with the process of cultivating your moral character. If some students previously did not do well in their studies or had a poor character, after going to the Buddhist academy and studying diligently for about 1 or 2 months, they will experience a positive transformation in their lives. They will fundamentally change their character and develop a mind inclined toward virtuous actions. In the past, they may have been very angry and unfriendly to others. But as time passed, many of them eventually became selfless, deeply loyal, pure-hearted, and remarkably courageous individuals. If you were to ask where the true roots of Tibetan culture are found today, within the modern university systems there are only some theoretical aspects, but the true living foundation of spiritual practice exists only within the monasteries. Whether we are looking at the Geshes or the Khenpos, who are living and studying in today's monastic institutions, or ordinary monks, or anyone who possesses a truly upright mind, closely observing and paying attention to their conduct, behavior, and the way they handle various matters will be of a significant benefit to yourself. Some of you university students think that the lamas in the monasteries don't understand anything at all. It is true that there are some lamas in society whose behaviors contradict politics and customs, what we refer to as corrupt households, such as improper actions that disturb the public. These kinds of things have existed from the history through to the modern day. But for the most part, it is only within the monasteries that there exists an extraordinarily profound and vast Tibetan culture. The reason is, for example, if you can recite the 4 medical tantras, those who can recite the 4 medical tantras are called wise ones. At Qinghai Nationalities University and some medical schools, those who can recite the 4 medical tantras receive a bonus of 5,000 or 6,000 yen. As for our Buddhist institute, when it comes to reciting the 5 great treatises, such as the Vinaya, Pramana, Abhidharma Kosha, and the verses of the Ornament of Clear Realization, etc., being able to recite the 4 medical tantras is not considered a big deal. In the monastery, being able to recite the 4 continuations, such as the continuation of the pulse and the later continuation, is considered a very simple matter. When it comes to the scope of education, monastic education and university education differ. University education covers a broader range of modern knowledge. But in terms of the depth of spiritual profundity, one can learn even deeper Buddhist philosophy and conduct within the monastery, especially for those of you studying medicine, as I mentioned earlier. In your own hometowns, there are some highly renowned and experienced veteran doctors. They are exceptionally skilled and highly experienced, but in your eyes, they are just elderly medical practitioners from your small hometown. They may look somewhat unkempt and humble in their worn-out clothes, and you might think they don't know anything at all, but the profound wisdom and life experience they carry is truly worth learning from. So when you travel back to your hometown, let the old doctors and old lamas share stories and legends from their lives. For us intellectuals today, this can bring profoundly unique insights and experiences. For example, people like us, I'm not exactly a modern or conventional individual, but I'm not from ancient times either. I'm somewhere in between. Whenever I have a bit of extra free time, I often go to spend time visiting some of the elderly residents at home and the venerable old lamas in their community, where we share various life experiences and personal values with one another. This practice is also deeply rewarding and beneficial for my own personal understanding of the world around me. You are all still quite young right now, and when you are young, you naturally have a deep desire to learn and gain much more knowledge, but you may not know which direction to take in your studies. To illustrate this point, consider that while highly esteemed university professors possess vast academic knowledge, from a deep-rooted cultural perspective, these respected community elders may not hold a formal academic title, yet even the most advanced university students can still learn an incredible wealth of practical wisdom and life lessons from them. Nowadays, there are many knowledgeable people like this in the general public. In the future, you can listen to teachings from the venerable and wise old doctor, the old lama, the learned geshe, and the Khenpo. Thoughtfully reflecting on these experiences will likely have a profound and very positive impact on your life.
Greetings and hello, Khenpo. I am a student who comes from Ruargai County, located in Aba Prefecture. As a student currently engaged in studying Tibetan traditional culture, we left our distant hometowns and came to this city and environment. Many students today often feel quite lost and uncertain when it comes to the challenge of handling their interpersonal relationships and maintaining a kind character. They frequently struggle with a persistent sense of losing their own identity in the process. In such a fast-paced and modern environment, trying to study and understand traditional culture always feels exceptionally challenging and difficult for many individuals in our society today. What is the most appropriate course of action for us to take?
Today, it is a wonderful gathering with a large number of Tibetan students in this vibrant city. Some people might choose to call it Rongcheng, while many others prefer to refer to it as Jincheng. This is a truly remarkable and vibrant city that is home to an incredibly large, diverse, and constantly growing population of residents from all walks of life. When living in such a bustling city, it is actually very rare indeed not to be influenced by the surrounding environment. The surrounding environment will progressively influence your deepest inner self from the external world. So as Tibetan students coming here to study, what specifically should we be doing? Before passing away from this world, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche left us with a profound final teaching. Do not lose your own path, do not disturb others' minds. I think we should treat these 2 sentences as fundamental principles to follow throughout our lives. The meaning of the phrase, do not lose your own path, for us, Tibetan students, whether it is the style of your clothing, the beauty of your language, or the heritage of your traditional culture, you should also cultivate deep compassion, steadfast faith, sincere kindness, and many other noble qualities. No matter if you are staying in Han regions, living in various countries abroad, or anywhere else in the world, you must never lose these precious things. This is the primary meaning of the phrase, do not lose your own path. Second, although we often speak about the great importance of not losing our own path in our daily lives, as the old saying goes throughout the world, bullying the weak and flattering the strong, being unable to get along with either side and lacking true harmony, it seems that within the Tibetan community there is some sense of unity, but there is also a noticeable tendency to exclude outsiders. In the eyes of others, this behavior also makes us a frequent target of criticism. In terms of acquiring knowledge, on one hand, we should actively absorb various professional skills and modern technologies, but we must not lose our own traditions and customs. This is extremely important. In short, whether you are a university student or a monastic practitioner after arriving in the various Han cities, many individuals have done things that lose their own path and disturb the minds of others. It's not just you, even among those of us who are monastics. Although we wear these sacred robes and strictly shouldn't behave in such a worldly way, there are unfortunately still some individuals among us who do. No matter who it is, whether they reside in distant lands as Tibetans ourselves, we must work together to preserve our unique ethnic cultural heritage. By not abandoning our own spoken language, our written script, and our traditional customs, this is the essence of what it means to not lose one's own path in this modern world. At the same time, we should be careful not to disturb the peaceful and quiet minds of others. The sacred and profound teachings of Buddhism are deeply rooted in compassion. We should use the power of bodhicitta for the ultimate welfare of all sentient beings. Even if we cannot fully achieve this goal, everyone should do their absolute best and showcase their unique talents and inner potential as much as possible. If we can do this, then no matter what challenges we encounter in the future, our entire people will have a very bright, hopeful, and promising outlook. From a religious perspective, as I mentioned before, Tibetan Buddhism is both very mysterious and uniquely distinctive in the world. This is how its value is clearly demonstrated. All of the above is extremely important and significant. These are also the precious and profound teachings and guidance left to us by our great masters. Whether we are monastics or you young people, regarding these invaluable teachings compassionately left by our venerable and compassionate masters, I sincerely hope that everyone will keep them in mind and cherish them in your hearts throughout your lives.
Respected and esteemed Khenpo, I am a student hailing from Ruargai, Aba County, Sichuan Province. First of all, on behalf of all of the fellow students and peers present here at this meaningful gathering, generally speaking, from ancient times to the present, our people, when meeting wise individuals and virtuous masters, have always proudly worn our uniquely distinctive and traditional cultural attire. However, due to environmental and various other factors, the students here, unfortunately, we were unable to wear the traditional Tibetan clothing today, and we sincerely hope you can understand this. All the students gathered here today come from various diverse regions across the 3 traditional Tibetan areas. There are students who have traveled from the regions of Kham, Amdo, and Utsang. However, when they engage in daily conversation with one another, they do not communicate using their own native mother tongues, but instead choose to use the common languages of other ethnic groups. I would like to ask Khenpo for your guidance on this matter.
First of all, every person gathered here today is a student in the specialized Tibetan medicine class. No matter which school I visit, I find that most Tibetan classes place a very great importance on traditionally wearing Tibetan clothing and using the Tibetan language as the primary medium for all teaching and instruction. I truly rejoice in this fact. However, in certain specific situations, if wearing traditional Tibetan attire would somehow affect the smooth progress of our scheduled event, then I want to emphasize that I truly do not mind that everyone wasn't able to wear those Tibetan clothes. If you all wear traditional Tibetan attire just for the sake of listening to my talk, to be honest, I don't personally think that's very appropriate at all. As people of Tibetan heritage, it is more than enough if you simply make a sincere effort to maintain the inner intention not to ever abandon your traditional Tibetan dress in your daily life and activities. If it's for the arrival of a certain lama or for holding a ceremony and only put on Tibetan clothes for such occasions, then wearing Tibetan attire becomes like putting on a costume. If you only wear it when a lama arrives, it's just like putting on a costume to act in a play. And when the theatrical performance has reached its final conclusion, you just take it off. In this way, one day Tibetan attire will be reduced to nothing more than a costume. This would mean losing the true value and meaning of Tibetan dress itself. So it is beneficial and important if everyone cultivates the daily habit of wearing traditional Tibetan clothes in everyday lives. Otherwise, if you do not wear it normally and only put on Tibetan clothes at the door specifically because I'm coming today, and then take it off again after I leave, it fails to represent a genuine connection to our traditions. Well, the talk only lasts 2 hours, and during those 2 hours, it's difficult to say whether anyone can determine if you appreciate your ethnic traditions. So, to be honest, I don't really mind what you choose to wear in your daily life. In short, as Tibetans, no matter where we go, we must never forget our unique traditional dress and our ancient customs, especially our sacred language and our written script. These are the fundamental things that we must never, ever let fade from our memories. And in a certain deeper sense, if you truly carry these values in your heart, it is actually fine if you do not wear traditional Tibetan clothes every single day. Because in this modern era, it seems the whole world is looking towards and learning from the West, consistently adopting Western styles of dress and fashion. Many Tibetans, both those living at home and those residing abroad, are following the same trend. They now only wear their traditional Tibetan clothes on rare and specific occasions. Sometimes this choice is made simply to fit in more easily with prevailing global customs and modern standards. Indeed, there are many such complex situations in our daily lives. So the simple fact that none of you are wearing traditional Tibetan clothes here today doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if you can wear Tibetan clothes in daily life, that's especially good. The second issue, today I'm giving this talk in another ethnic group's language. This was an official and formal request from the event organizers. Because everyone gathered here actually comes from many different parts of Tibetan area, consequently most people simply can't understand the nuances of the Amdo dialect. So by speaking in Chinese, everyone can understand. And most people simply cannot understand the Amdo dialect. So, by communicating clearly in Chinese, every person in the room can understand. If you have gone through the trouble of inviting me here today and I failed to accommodate your request for this session, then I believe this lecture wouldn't be satisfying for anyone involved. From my own personal perspective, I'm quite certain that I would definitely be able to speak much better and express my thoughts more clearly in the Tibetan language than I ever could while speaking in Chinese. However, since the school requires me to communicate using Chinese, I have no other alternative choice but to use Chinese for this purpose. When traveling through cities in the Han regions, as a Han Lama, I must communicate in the Chinese language. I suppose that this is also a kind of profound karmic connection.
Respected Khenpo, I am a student from Luhuo County, located in Ganzi Prefecture. My question is this. Nowadays, many young students in primary, middle, and high schools are saying more and more things that they can't actually do or that simply don't align with their true selves. For us Tibetan people, do you personally think this is a positive phenomenon or a negative one?
What is this boastful big talk?
When we speak of big talk, we refer to boastful claims that an individual cannot accomplish due to a lack of skill, or statements for which they are unable to take responsibility when things go wrong, and ultimately these are words that do not match the actual reality of the situation in any meaningful way.
As a specific illustration,
for example, this includes various activities or specific tasks that a person finds themselves unable to perform, as well as scenarios that are fundamentally detached from reality or simply lack any practical feasibility in our everyday lives.
Generally speaking, when it comes to very major matters, we often hear some grand and lofty statements that do not truly align with our own inner feelings. Some of these formal expressions are specifically meant to demonstrate one's firm determination and commitment. It's a bit challenging to truly achieve them right now, but gradually it can be accomplished in the future. For example, when you're still in elementary school, it's very unrealistic and difficult to expect you to successfully earn a master's or doctoral degree. But if you have that kind of determination and dream, you can gradually achieve it in the future. For instance, from the perspective of Buddhist teachings, it's impossible for a single person to save all sentient beings by themselves. However, when we give rise to the Mahayana mind, we should aspire to personally lead all sentient beings in the 3 realms and 6 paths to Buddhahood. This is the kind of intention we should have. For us in the Tibetan student community, whether it's in terms of our cultural ethnicity or our religious beliefs, or even in our own work in every single aspect, it may seem very difficult to accomplish, but the power of human intention and aspiration is truly incredible. There are certain tasks that can be accomplished and are not very difficult. Some people demonstrate a great deal of perseverance, but their words are greatly embellished. Truly, such exaggeration is meaningless. If you don't actually do anything yourself and only talk big, it is completely meaningless.
Hello Khenpo, I am currently a student studying in the Tibetan department at Southwest Minzu University in Chengdu. I am originally from Garze Prefecture, and the question that I want to ask you today is, the vast natural resources and rich spiritual Buddhist traditions of our Tibetan region. These natural landscapes are extremely rare and remarkably complete within the entire world, standing as a unique ecological treasure. As a dedicated Tibetan student who deeply loves my beautiful hometown, what specific actions can I take to protect this fragile environment and preserve its pristine beauty for future generations? We would be deeply honored if you could please provide us with some comprehensive guidance and practical advice on how to best protect this land.
Generally speaking, students in today's world possess a different way of thinking from those in the past. This is a positive development. In the past, at established academic universities such as Northwest Minzu University and Southwest Minzu University, the atmosphere was quite different. And even among Tibetan students in any school in Chengdu, there was not enough understanding of their own Tibetan identity. Mainly due to lack of a clear understanding, they would often simply choose to go along with various other ethnic groups and different religious practices they encountered. They think that this was something brave and rare. But now, we Tibetan students, due to a variety of factors, have experienced changes in certain aspects such as tradition, language, and even habits. Some changes have taken place in these areas. This is something that is clearly visible. Even so, no matter where we are, the rich and profound Tibetan culture that each of us carries within ourselves, not only among university students, but even students above junior high school, all know its importance. In my personal view, this represents an unprecedented improvement and a substantial strategic advantage. With this specific context in mind, let us take the unique Tibetan region as an example. Just a few days ago, while I was on my way from Larunga to Chengdu, I noticed that there were many people from various Han areas heading up toward the Tibetan regions. Because that day happened to be a Friday, the main road was incredibly congested and completely packed with a long line of cars. When I asked around the local area, I was told that the natural environment and scenery around Merkang is beautiful and pleasant, so people go there to relax and enjoy themselves on Saturdays and Sundays. At that time, the road was heavily jammed and crowded with many cars. Previously, during the busy National Day holiday period, our college alone was surprised to receive tens of thousands of visiting tourists from across the country. This remarkable turnout truly reflects what we often say about how incredibly perfect, pristine, and unique the natural environment in Tibetan areas is today. Tibetan culture and its ancient traditions, in the eyes of most people, are not only deeply fascinating to observe, but are also widely considered to be greatly beneficial to the human mind, providing a sense of peace and spiritual well-being. However, as Tibetans, we truly also need to actively learn from the richness of other cultures and gain a diverse range of additional knowledge. We should study the cultures, sciences, and both the contemporary and the historical knowledge of other ethnic groups as well. Especially as students, it is indeed absolutely essential and vital to learn about Tibetan culture and religion. This is what I say and truly believe in my heart, no matter which school I go to. Nowadays, in some modern schools, certain Tibetan students and teachers openly reject Buddhism. Some even wrongly see Buddhism as a major obstacle, which is really something to be deeply ashamed of within our hearts. The reason is that what we call Buddhism is not that simple. If your medical school rejects Buddhism, you essentially deny the four medical tantras and everything based on them. Opposing Buddhism also rejects works like Poetics and foundational Tibetan texts like 30 Verses and Treatise on Phonetics. Not to mention the major ones, even these are being rejected. Nowadays, many students, due to their lack of understanding of Buddhism, simply follow along with some teachers who also do not understand Buddhism. They strongly believe that Buddhism hinders social progress and economic development, and thus they actively oppose it. This perspective truly leads to significant disunity and ongoing conflict within the lives of the Tibetan people. This is both misguided and wrong. If you truly want to refute it, go to a monastery first, because there are many lamas debating there. Discuss the Dharma with them, and in just one day you'll be able to distinguish right from wrong. You may not be refuting it now, but in the future, if you do things like refuting the Dharma, it is definitely a profound mistake and clearly demonstrates that you do not truly understand the essence of the Dharma. If you really want to effectively refute the principles of Buddhism, for example, the complex teachings found within the Entering the Middle Way, even starting from the very first sacred homage verse, you should begin your systematic refutation there. What should we do in such a situation? The absolute key is to possess deep knowledge, to be thoroughly educated, and to cultivate a comprehensive understanding of the subject matter. The pristine and absolutely flawless environment of Tibetan area is exceptionally rare, even in the whole world. Many Tibetans are unaware of this. Young people, as soon as they have a little money, rush off to the cities. They think this makes them highly capable and wise. but that's not necessarily the case in reality. So first, we need to understand the necessity of culture. Once we know this, we will understand. The entire foundation of culture and Buddhism still remains in the hands of our very own people. For example, if there are exactly 100 people here gathered today, and each person understands the value of Tibetan culture and fulfills their own responsibilities. There is a Tibetan saying, when everyone lifts firewood together, it feels light, no matter what you do. In the future, you will also be highly knowledgeable and talented people who truly recognize the value of your own culture. People from every region need to communicate with each other. Why is that? For example, if the different areas of Tibetan area, such as the regions of Amdo and Luhuo, are not united internally, that would certainly be a very negative situation. For students at the Nationalities University or other Tibetan universities, it is not just about being united for the sake of fighting, but if we can truly unite for the sake of our future cultural development and learning together, I believe our collective aspirations and abilities will gradually become much greater and more impactful over time.
Hello, respected Khenpo. I am a student at the Tibetan Medicine College. If I may, I would like to ask a question that is somewhat outside of today's main topic. The teachings on the nature of impermanence and adversity found within your book, Suffering is Life, have helped me greatly in my life. But sometimes, when facing certain things in real life, I still find myself easily getting angry or upset. I'd like to ask, when facing these adversities, how can we better adjust our mindset to deal with them?
The book titled Suffering is Life is a book I recently finished. Throughout my long career, I have written and translated a wide variety of books, but none of them sold particularly well. However, I am pleased to say that Suffering is Life has performed quite relatively well this time compared to my past work. It is also important to clarify that I had signed a contract with the publisher for this book. I was not involved in selling the books directly myself. The money earned doesn't go to me personally. I have a binding contract with them. In my own new book, Suffering is Life, where I boldly mainly discuss some fundamental Buddhist principles and certain practices from our rich Tibetan culture in daily life, all described in clear modern language. My goal is to show that there are many meaningful things in Tibetan culture that are worth learning. Additionally, there are also many profound things in Buddhism that are very much worth learning from for our personal development. But these principles should be expressed in a language that modern people today especially like, using vivid metaphors and relatable stories that truly appeal to contemporary audiences. That was my original intention when I first started this journey. As you just mentioned, the concepts of impermanence and deep suffering, of course, when these things happen to oneself, if you can't transform them into a part of your spiritual path, if you can't adjust your own mind, it may not necessarily be truly beneficial to your life. But if you approach it from a completely different and fresh perspective, you might gain some truly valuable and deep insight during such times. So lately, I have frequently found myself using a particular phrase: let gain and loss follow natural conditions, and let the mind remain calm and unchanged. If you apply this concept, then indeed when the unpredictable nature of impermanence arises in life, for example, if I originally hoped for something wonderful to happen in my life, but things did not go as planned, but then impermanence occurs and I don't quite get it, I can still go with the flow and feel that it's nothing particularly special. Originally, I was exceptionally healthy and strong, but then I suddenly got sick, and it was deeply painful and distressing and truly unbearable. At that time, I also thought that this must be due to certain causes and conditions. Perhaps experiencing this illness will actually contribute more meaning to my life. It's looking at things from another perspective. So today, I want to say that although I am not a medical professional, I am sharing valuable Buddhist knowledge and ancient wisdom with you from the personal perspective of a Buddhist. Perhaps when you look at it from a medical, scientific, or clinical perspective, you will find that you gain something entirely different. So in fact, every single thing in this world is inherently multifaceted. When you look at something from many different sides and various unique perspectives, you begin to see a much broader picture. You will also gain some valuable insights from it. In our lives, we all hope for happiness, but it's impossible to always be happy. Perhaps when you are experiencing suffering from within that very pain, you might discover something even more meaningful.
I am from Luhuo County, Ganzi Prefecture. I am a student in the 2011 class of Tibetan medicine. I have a question for Khenpo. If you wish to know the causes of your past life, look at what you are experiencing in this life. To know the results of your next life, look at your actions in this life. Regarding the past and future lives in this saying, from the perspective of Tibetan medicine, we believe they arise from the three elements, essence, blood, and consciousness. We judge whether the soul exists based on the arising of consciousness. I think many people do not acknowledge the existence of the soul. Could you please explain to us the relationship between the soul and consciousness? How are the two produced so that we can develop a more comprehensive understanding? Thank you.
The concept of past and future lives is fundamental and really important within Buddhism. Many of you modern students and practitioners today often have doubts about the actual existence and continuity of past and future lives. And you may think that it simply doesn't hold up. Such skeptical thoughts might frequently arise in your minds. However, according to our traditional understanding and the ancient philosophical teachings, due to the influence of environment and education, no one denied the existence of past and future lives. But recently in Qinghai and other places, it's said that some Tibetan students don't acknowledge past and future lives. Simply choosing not to believe in the existence of past and future lives is not enough. You must possess logical reasons and valid evidence. As for the complex phenomenon that we call consciousness, some people think it is made up of physical elements like essence, blood, wind, bile, and phlegm. Some also believe it is produced by the biological functions of the brain, while others think it arises from the depths of the heart. In short, they think the mind is composed of external, inanimate elements, the four great elements of earth, water, fire, and wind. This is unreasonable. Why? There is a vast of wisdom that analyzes this in great detail. Dharmakirti, in the chapter on the establishment of valid cognition of the Pramanavartika, establishes the existence of past and future lives 3 times. You should not comprehend past and future lives in the same way you understand the actual physical body. How can this be firmly established? It is mainly just established through your wisdom. If you say that past and future lives are produced by the body, is this body permanent or impermanent? If they arise from something permanent, it leads to the logical fallacy of results being either perpetually present or forever absent. If it arises from inanimate matter, then does it arise from a part of inanimate matter, or is it produced by all inanimate things working together? If you say it is produced collectively, then, when the physical body is experiencing a significant deficiency, the mind would also be rendered incomplete and fragmented. If it arises from a part, since the body is composed of countless particles, then the mind would also become countless. These kinds of questions are all discerned through wisdom. In this way, the external and inanimate physical body can only serve as a secondary supporting condition for existence and is not the direct, immediate, or primary cause of the mind. This significant point becomes much clearer upon reflection. Let's use a helpful analogy. The mind is inherently luminous, clear, and naturally radiant, and can only rely on its own prior continuum, not arise from inanimate phenomena. If it is said that mind arises from inanimate phenomena, such as from the flesh and blood of the body, it is a profound fact that even the most advanced and brilliant scientists working in the world today are still completely unable to create the complex biological life of even a single tiny ant from scratch. Therefore, we must conclude that mind can only ever give rise to mind, and it simply does not arise solely from the physical functions of the material body. Regarding this specific point of inquiry, I have referenced and analyzed many modern scientific theories during my time at Xi'an Jiaotong University, and have also discussed these ideas together with several PhD students and dedicated academic researchers at Nanjing University. On the profound and complex topic of the existence of past and future lives, I previously undertook the task of translating Khenpo Lodro's significant work titled On Past and Present Lives into the Chinese language to share these insights with a much broader audience. This comprehensive body of work also cites many scientific theories and foundational ideas from both modern and earlier science. There are also prominent recent Western scientists and researchers such as Dr. Tucker and Dr. Ian Stevenson. Dr. Stevenson was a highly respected American scientist and medical researcher, but he passed away in the year 1997 after a long and distinguished career. Dr. Tucker is his dedicated former student, and he has edited numerous books on past and future lives. These works are highly influential and widely recognized in Western countries today. So now many scientists acknowledge the existence of past and future lives. They believe that past and future lives must exist. If they did not, then there would be no possible way to explain why so many different people in the world can recall their past lives. Nowadays, in the United States and the United Kingdom, there are many dedicated scientists who, through observation, have established the reasoning for the existence of past and future lives. As for the valid cognition in Buddhism, it is determined through wisdom. There is nothing that cannot be established in this way. If you happen to have any doubts or questions, you should consider going to visit a local monastery, especially to engage in a formal debate with the learned lamas there. You will make very significant progress yourself. For example, when you visit a local monastery and see the lamas debating, no matter whether you are a woman or a man, regardless of who you are, just tell them, I reject the existence of past and future lives. What proof is there for the existence of past and future lives? Let's debate it. At that time, whether you are a man or a woman, wisdom will clear away your claims. You will find no response and will have to acknowledge past and future lives. For us Tibetan students, it is very vital and significant to consistently and carefully observe and engage in deep reflection about this.
Respected and Honorable Khenpo, I'm a student from Zoich County in the Aba Prefecture. Today, the specific question that I would like to ask you is as follows. Whether it is our rigorous study of epistemology or traditional Buddhist logic, it appears that every academic discipline extensively discusses the complex formation of the world. The formation as a whole or as individual parts is established using characteristics of phenomena and names. For example, the principle that a characteristic of phenomena must include a name, and a name must include the characteristic of phenomena, and so on. But now there are many modern and innovative materials available to us. So in such an era, when debating in the profound study of Buddhist logic and the complex field of epistemology, we use these new materials as illustrative examples. For instance, the inherent characteristic of fire is its heat, but there are certain analogies that don't quite fit the context, such as using the example of hot water and a kitchen stove to establish the logical principle that wherever there is smoke, there must be fire. Additionally, similar to the unique conditions on Mars, there is intense fire but no visible smoke. So, in our modern era, we use innovative scientific terms as metaphors to better describe and categorize these materials. What are your thoughts on this? Please give us your guidance.
Generally, in Buddhist logic, the following three components, the instance, the name, and the characteristic, are always discussed together. These are explained in detail in the first chapter of the Commentary on Valid Cognition, as well as in the 8th chapter of the Treasury of Valid Reasoning. There are thorough explanations. However, the characteristic of any phenomenon is not established based on just one or two individual cases. For example, if we say the defining characteristic of a human is the ability to understand and express language, then mute people or newborn babies would not be considered human. This kind of fault does not exist because the characteristic is established based on the category. If it is all-encompassing within the category, it is also all-encompassing in terms of the name. For example, heat is the defining characteristic of fire. Although other things like hot water also possess heat, since they are not of the same kind, the fault does not arise if you want to thoroughly understand the characteristics of objects, instants, and names in Buddhism. You should mainly study them through the science of logic. In the science of logic, the principles of concordance and discordance are discussed. Especially when things are discordant, it refutes them. When they are concordant, the universality is spoken of in terms of the same category. If the characteristics of all knowable phenomena were established based on individuals, there would be the fault of non-universality. If knowable phenomena are divided by individuals, for example, if the characteristics of humans are divided into the characteristics of Westerners and the characteristics of Southerners, then there would be the fault of having countless characteristics. Therefore, it is reasonable and without fault to establish characteristics from the perspective of categories.
Thank you, respected Khenpo. Thank you very much. Due to time constraints, our lecture will end here. On behalf of all the students, we express our gratitude to Khenpo. We also hope to hold similar lectures again in the future. Simultaneously, students offer a kata to the Khenpo to show respect.
Today, we thank Khenpo for taking time out of his busy schedule to come to our event. The long-held wish of the students to see Khenpo has now become a beautiful reality. The students have also expressed their heartfelt gratitude and sincerest blessings to Khenpo by offering katas. However, these precious moments are always fleeting, but I believe that every student present here today will never forget this special and unforgettable afternoon. Finally, please allow me to speak on behalf of every student here and say to Khenpo, Khenpo, thank you so much for your tireless dedication and hard work. Lastly, let us all stand together now to bid a very fond farewell to Khenpo.